Well, we're going to get you set for winter. I know you don't want to hear the word, but it's coming. It's inevitable. And you need to prepare properly, especially when it comes to your vehicle. Our next guest is going to help us with just that, with some great advice. Hassan is the Automotive Member Success Supervisor. That's quite a title, by the way.
Quite a title.
With CAA North and East Ontario. Welcome, Hassan. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
I think the most obvious place to start is changing those summer tires to winter tires. Why is that so important?
So for me, a long time ago, I used to think, hey, you know what? It doesn't really make that big of a difference. And I see a lot of people think that as well. They're like, oh, I can go on my all seasons. But, you know, once you start looking at the science behind it, you find out that there's a huge difference between the tires. So with all season tires, whenever the temperatures drop below 7 degrees Celsius, what ends up happening is the rubber on them actually starts to harden.
Okay.
And what that means is that they actually become less effective than they would be during the summer. So they actually start becoming a little bit more of a liability when the temperatures drop. The cool thing about winter tires is that they're designed specifically with rubber that maintains its elasticity and flexibility in the winter months. What that means is that you're getting tires that have better traction, better handling, and better stopping power. And that's super important when we get all kinds of those conditions. And the other thing is they're designed to also not collect snow. Meaning they have sort of a pattern where it sort of kicks out snow, but it also is helpful with avoiding slippage on water, which is also known as hydroplaning.
I think you touched on it, Hassan, but you know, when do I switch over? When should viewers switch over their tires?
So a lot of people think that it's with the first snowfall, but it actually has to be a lot earlier than that. So typically the rule that we have, an easy way to remember it, is 7 below 7. And what that means is 7 days where the temperature, the daytime temperature, is below 7 degrees Celsius. If it's a couple of days, or if you see that your breath is getting a bit foggy, that's usually the best indicator that, you know what, it's probably time to switch over.
And I mean, one of the great things you guys now offer through a CAA membership is that you have your mobile service, right? Like you come directly to people's homes now to do it. I imagine even their place of business if necessary.
Yeah, and you know, I love our slogan. It's the pit crew that comes to you, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's good. I didn't know that was a slogan.
Yeah.
I love that. So, how do you choose the right winter tire? Like, what should I look for?
So with winter tires, what you want to look for with winter tires, you want to make sure that you are getting winter tires. You know, it can be confusing when you go online or when you're asking around, and you know, it's hard to really tell. They all look the same. So what you want to look for on the tire itself is you want to look for a 3-peaked mountain logo with a snowflake in the middle. And that is pretty much your best indicator that this is a winter tire. Also, you want to look for, you know, tires that typically have words on them like snow or ice or things along that line.
Right.
And typically to pick, it's up to you depending on if you're brand loyal or not, but typically any tires that have those ratings have gone through rigorous testing and are pretty much going to do the job.
As we go from, you know, the one season to the next, especially when we're going into the winter season, oil change is important as well. Let's talk about the importance of that and how often should we be looking to do that?
So ideally with oil changes, you want to change your oil twice a year.
Okay.
And obviously it depends on if you use your vehicle more or less, but general rule is 2 times a year. And the reason why we want to change them, especially before the winter, is because the cold temperature slows the flow of oil. So what ends up happening is basically when your oil is dirty, it's already a little bit thicker. It gets super dark brown and there's a little bit of gunk in it, and then what happens is that paired with the slower flow of oil ends up just giving your engine a really hard time. Your engine has to work that much harder, and that affects your vehicle's performance, that affects your fuel consumption, just overall not great for your car, and it puts that at a higher risk of, you know, the engine not being sort of as viscous as it needs to be, and the components of your engine not being as viscous as they need to be, and it takes longer for your temperature of the engine to reach where it's supposed to be with the thicker oil.
You can't see it. Behind you is a monitor. I'm just looking here, and they're showing an oil change. So you guys are now offering mobile oil change service as well?
Yeah, and the cool thing is in the video as well, it's showcased, but what's awesome is, again, all of these services that we have, the tire swap, the mobile oil change, we come to you. So basically you're just hanging out at home, you'd be watching a movie, whatever you want to do, making some nice, you know, hot cocoa or tea, whatever it is. And pretty much it's super efficient, super clean. You know, a lot of people think that oil changes are super messy, but we have a system where it's not at all. We basically have a vacuum that sucks the oil out from the top.
That's what I was seeing there. Okay.
So you have basically that vacuum.
So you don't have to worry about, you know, I think people, you know, think, oh, if you do it on my driveway, I'm going to have, you know, the chance of an oil spill. You don't have to worry about that.
Not at all. And we have sort of a non-slip pad under filter that basically absorbs anything that could potentially just fall.
Let's look at some other things to maintain. What should we look at, as far as maintenance goes before those, the snowfalls?
So what you want to do is sort of think about your vehicle from front to back and go through a checklist. And what you want to do is, let's start at the headlights. Are your headlights working? Is the headlight casing foggy? If so, maybe we should clean it up, replace the bulb. You're under the hood. How are your fluids? Is your engine coolant or your wiper fluid up to winter spec? Meaning, is it winter rated?
Right.
Going to your tires, are they cracked? Is there any damage on them? How's the tread depth, right? You can buy a gauge and it's super easy to measure. If it's 3 millimeters or less, they need to be changed. New tires are typically 8 to 9 millimeters for tire tread depth. Then you have your brakes. Are they making any noises? Are they squealing? If so, you need to replace them. Your gas tank. This is an interesting one. You should always keep your tank at half full or above. And there's a couple of reasons why.
Okay.
In case you get stuck somewhere, you want to make sure you have enough gas to keep your car warm and you stay warm within the car.
Right.
And basically, if your gas is a bit too low, then condensation builds up in your gas tank, and that could potentially, if it freezes over, cause some damage to your gas lines.
Interesting. Yeah. I never knew that. And I see, if I go into one of these big box stores, I see that there's always these additives that you can add to your gas line. I don't even know what the heck they do, but I mean, do you recommend those? Like, are they effective at all?
Yeah, so additives are not a bad thing to have. Basically what they do is they have additives for your oil as well, and what they do is they just clean sort of some of the components within your engine. So as it's lubricating those components, it's also sort of has like the turns that are sort of cleaning those components as well. So not a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, a membership gives you a lot of, peace of mind is the best way to put it, right? And there are different levels of membership, and a lot of what we talked about today, the changeover for oil and the changeover for tire, that's all available depending on the type of membership at an extra cost, but of course at a discount, right?
Exactly, yeah, it's available to all of our membership levels.
Hassan, real pleasure having you today.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for joining us. To sign up, by the way, caaneo.ca, and make sure you check everything, because a lot of the modern vehicles, you can just hit a button now and see, if you need to change your oil. It's that simple. We'll be right back after this.